Hi, everybody. Oh, this is so exciting. All right. So we are learning our book. If you have it handy, and Hindle was kind enough to send the pages to those who are on the link. So this is really Jewish meditation. I saw it was advertised as Jewish meditation. That's what we're learning, living in divine space. Okay, so we're on page 4. This area, point line area. So point line area. This is very good for people who remember algebra. If you remember algebra, 9th grade math, you're going to be very excited about this part over here. You're only required to come to this class. You do have to you have to have taken algebra in 9th grade. We're very fussy. We are very selective who we're letting in. Okay, so page 4 for those who just tuned in. Kabbalah and Hasidus emphasize meditation as an essential technique in communication with God. Okay, so obviously we're all here because we want to communicate with God, and meditation is an essential technique. This is so great. With regard to meditation, as regard to any growth process, they outline 3 stages of spiritual development: point, line, and area. And this was brought down from the Mittler Rebbe. The Mittler Rebbe brings down this idea in his Sefer Torah's Chaim: point, line, area. So we're just going to review what those are. This is very exciting. A little geometry also. Defined in the narrow sense, a point is 0-dimensional. So it's an abstract point. It's a point that doesn't have height, width, or depth. It's just an abstract concept of a point, a dimensionless point. In human consciousness, okay, so what I was saying, defined in the narrow sense, a point is a zero-dimensional. Line is 1-dimensional, like the x-axis on a graph. It's just 1-dimensional. And an area is 2-dimensional, like you have a square, it's 2-dimensional, has length and width. Okay, so that's 2-dimensional. So that's like a very brief review of, everyone can visualize the difference between a point, a line, and an area. Okay, we can visualize it. Okay, now in human consciousness, now we're leaving geometry behind for human consciousness. In human consciousness, the state of the 0-dimensional point is the experience of remaining static, not moving ahead, the sense of possessing 0 velocity. So everyone knows velocity is like speed, miles per hour, feet per second. Okay, so velocity. So if we're not moving, if we're static, we have 0 velocity. So that's what the point represents in human consciousness, 0 velocity. The state of the 1-dimensional line is the dynamic experience of motion at constant, unchanging speed. Mathematically, this type of constant velocity is linear. It's like we're traveling the whole time at 50 miles an hour to Ithaca, New York. It takes 5 hours, constant velocity. That's linear, okay. Like velocity is like miles per hour. It's distance divided by time, constant velocity. Okay. The state of the 2-dimensional area is the experience of acceleration, ever increasing speed, and mathematically acceleration is represented as a quadratic equation. So it's been a long time since I studied quadratic equations in 9th grade, and I actually had to check with Rabbi Google exactly. I wanted to review. It's so good. I Googled quadratic equations, and it was just like being back in 9th grade again. Okay. So the sample of a quadratic equation is that it always has like an x squared. It's like x squared plus x plus a number. So there's always, if it's not, so you could say if it's x squared equals 0, there's no square function. It's not a quadratic equation. It's a linear equation. So to be a quadratic equation, you have to have an x squared. Something is being squared. And that's because acceleration is a squaring of time, like it's distance It's velocity divided by time squared. So this time squared, having time squared, or distance equals 1/2 acceleration times time squared. It makes it a quadratic equation. Okay, so that's just a little something there. And then they have a chart here on this page, here on page 5, of point, line, area, 0 dimension, 1 dimension, 2 dimensions, and the point is static. The line represents motion at a constant velocity, and area is acceleration. And the definition of acceleration is ever increasing speed, right? It's what it means to accelerate, to go faster and faster. Okay, but we're talking about it now in terms of consciousness. We've left geometry behind. Defined in a broader, more profound sense, the point is not to be taken literally as 0 dimensional, nor is the line meant to be understood as 1 dimensional, nor the area as 2 dimensionals. These 3 progressive stages are meant to be understood in relationship to each other. Okay, now this is very interesting. Now we're getting to what it really means in terms of meditation. The point is the point of departure on our spiritual journey ahead. Now, isn't that interesting? Like, let's decide, let's go on a spiritual journey, everybody. Okay, point of departure. The point of departure in our spiritual journey, the line is the consciousness of actually progressing toward our goal. Like, we're going to learn this meditation. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to empower each other. So we're going to be progressing towards our goal. And the area is the experience of reaching the goal, possessing it, and becoming possessed by it, becoming one with the goal. Here, paradoxically, the ever-increasing state of acceleration comes to rest while we continue to experience the vital dynamic of motion. In other words, I was just about to say, in other words, motion and rest paradoxically exist simultaneously in our consciousness. So we're used to paradoxes. We've been doing a lot of paradoxes in all the books we're reading. So motion and rest is a paradox. There's a place for motion and there's a place for rest in our consciousness. We have to know, like joy and crying, there's a place for both, and both of them at the same time. So similar to that, motion and rest can exist paradoxically in our consciousness. We're going to find out more. Applied to meditation, the starting point is focusing on the objective, which is the search for God, as in, with all my heart I seek you. That was the pasuk from Tehillim 119 that starts the chapter, B'chol libi drashticha, with all my heart I seek you. So this is the starting point. So that's very interesting. What makes a Jewish meditation? Because we're searching for God. We're searching for God. Let's be open. Let's be honest about it. We're searching for God. Could a few more people put on their cameras, please? I just like much appreciation for the, come on, put on your cameras. Don't be shy. That's it. L'chaim, thank you, Hannah. Come on, more people. That's always good to save, right? Put on your cameras. Oh, thank you, thank you. It does add to that human feeling. Yes, wave to your best friends in the distance. Okay, so here we go. So the starting point is focusing on the objective, which is the search for God. God is hidden. We learned that last time. This is it. We're searching for God. Here we are. We have our group. We're searching for God. In meditation is individual, but it's good. It empowers us to see that we're all searching for God. The line of meditation is its well-defined direction and includes the parameters of its orientation. That's in other words saying that it can have an arrow and be pointing in a direction, which makes it a vector. That's what it's saying. A line can have a direction. These parameters are the 6 spatial directions surrounding us. And again, everyone should really have this down. If you feel any confusion about this, these 6 directions, above, below, please visualize above, below, front, back, right, left. It's interesting. I remember learning in Torah HaNefesh that right, left is the only one that's a bit sophisticated, because above, below is very, which one is above and which one is below? We would get it right every time. Front and back is easy, but right and left is a bit more sophisticated. You have to, learn at some age which is right and which is left. Well, we have reading English from left to right, reading Hebrew from right to left. We have a few hints. Okay, so we have these 6 directions. On the cover, you see a cube. Might be a little hard to see. Now you can see it. So a cube has 6 sides. So this meditation is that we're visualizing ourselves in this cube, with an air-conditioned cube, of course, that has 6 constant mitzvahs, 6 constant mitzvahs in 6 directions. Okay. So these parameters are the 6 spatial directions surrounding us, above, below, front, back, right, left, each of which corresponds to one of the 6 constant commandments of the Torah, meant to, turning the page, ensure our constant awareness of God. We will examine these mitzvahs in detail shortly. So why are we doing this? Why are we doing meditation? Why are we interested in Jewish meditation? Because we need to improve our constant awareness of God, and these are constant mitzvahs. Because we all want to think about God more, and this is going to help us. Because right now, like just to say our constant awareness of God, I suddenly, just saying those words, I become more aware of God. L'chaim, l'chaim. Okay. The full area, now we're on page 6 for anyone who just tuned in, the full area of meditative consciousness is becoming so engrossed in the depth of the meditation on both the intellectual and emotional planes that we transcend our own limited state of self-consciousness and undergo a metamorphosis, becoming one with the divine truth embodied in the meditation. So it's transcending. So I guess transcending our limit. So through meditation, we can transcend our own limited state of self-consciousness. So we're learning about meditation here because it's a good thing to know about. And then we're going to actually be doing meditation. But so far we learned that meditation helps us be aware of God. And meditation helps us transcend our own limited state of self-consciousness. Okay, now here is another chart on page 6. So point, line, area. So this is the starting point, progressing toward the goal and reaching the goal. Then there's focusing on the objective, defining direction and parameters of orientation. We're going to talk more about that. And the final, the area is a transcending self-consciousness, metamorphosis. Wow. And then we have the point is the search for God. And then we have the line is the 6 constant mitzvahs, and the area is oneness with divine truth. Why not? When we have a lovely group like this, let's go for oneness with divine truth. Okay, so then we have the service of the heart. This part ends the introduction. The service of the heart. The sages refer to prayer as the service of the heart. This is from Gemara Tainus 2a. We hear it all the time, Avodah Shebelev. But now we're really going to get a feeling. Why is prayer called Avodah Shebelev? Since the initial point of meditation is, with all my heart, I seek you. Again, with all my heart I seek you. Meditation must also be understood as the service of the heart. So we're saying not only davening is the service of the heart, meditation is also the service of the heart. Thus we see that there exists an intrinsic relationship between meditation and prayer. So when we get really good at creating this cube around us of the 6 constant mitzvahs, we can daven from the middle of this divine space that we created with our meditation. So there's an intrinsic relationship between meditation and prayer. This is really getting exciting. Indeed, prayer is the culmination, the consummate expression of meditation. The initial point of focus creates divine structure. The final point within prayer reflects our inner experience when we enter the consciousness of living in divine space. So we're going to learn how to enter the consciousness of living in divine space. That's our book. And that's where we're going to daven from. Davening is going to be different because we're going to be doing it from within divine space. And we're going to learn everything we need to know. Okay. So prayer is the culmination, the consummate expression of meditation. The initial point of focus creates divine structure. The final point within prayer reflects our inner experience when we enter the consciousness of living in divine space. Prayer as the point of the 6 directions of divine space converts the meditative line into a living, pulsating area. So it's going to be like happening where it's a live space, it's a live cube, yes. As will be explained, prayer is the striving of the soul to transform the meditative state into divine life, to metamorphosize out of a state of self-consciousness into one of divine consciousness. Very interesting, because this is really related to things we've been learning. Remember way, way back when we were learning transforming darkness into light, we spoke about Hiskaphia is taking the ego out of the center of my consciousness and putting Hashem in the center of my consciousness. So this was like the beginning of an idea of divine space. So the ego, don't worry, is not going to get stranded out there because it's going to say, what am I doing out here? Let me back in to the center of your consciousness. But meditation is going to give us a chance to really practice putting Hashem in the center of our consciousness. We're going to get real practice now. Now it's no longer just going to be theoretical ideas. So we're turning the page. We finished the introduction. We're going to start chapter 1. So Hinda, let me know when there's like about 4 minutes left so we could sum up and all of that kind of say farewell. And yes, very nice. Look at it, we have a full screen of people here, 25 people. Isn't that beautiful? Yes. Okay. The soul. So the chapter 1 is called meditation. The subtopic is the soul and reality. Now here's a sentence for you. The mind is the interface between the soul and reality. So we might have to grasp what that means. The mind is the interface between the soul and the reality. That's a big job for the poor mind. She'll have to go on a vacation, I think. All of us are constantly being bombarded with stimuli and sensations from the outside world. And it is our mind that possesses this onrush of sensations. The mind determines which sensations are to be taken note of, then classifies and arranges them, and decides which response is appropriate to which stimulus based on past experiences or principles. Okay, that's a good one. Provide our mind with the proper tools to process reality, and relate to it. Okay. All right, let's see. It is the mind then that determines how we relate to our environment. To realize ourselves in life to the fullest extent, we must provide our mind with the proper tools to process reality and relate to it. This is a fundamental purpose of Jewish meditation. This is such useful stuff to know. Why are we doing this? Because we want to provide our minds with the proper tools to process reality and relate to it. It's so important, it's so helpful to have tools to process reality and relate to it. Jewish meditation. Through meditation, we take the untamed mind. Oh, that poor untamed mind. Even after 48 years of taming it, wow, it is a struggle to deal with that mind. Okay. We take the untamed mind and train it to think in terms of images that are based on truth. At least give the poor mind a little truth to think about. By leading a subject through deeper and deeper levels of abstraction, we reach, in effect, deeper and deeper dimensions of the mind, thus gradually changing ourselves and the way we respond to the world around us and within us. Now that sounds like a very good project, gradually changing ourselves and the way that we respond to the world around and within us. So that sounds like something we want to do, and we're going to do it gradually. Oh, this is so exciting. Let's turn the page. Okay. To this end, we're on page 12, by the way. To this end, seasoned practitioners of meditation will make use of the whole range of biblical, Talmudic, Kabbalistic, and Hasidic literature to fertilize the potent ground of their imagination and faculty of association. So imagination, Hebrew, is dimyon. So we're using our imagination in a positive way, instead of using it to drive ourselves crazy, etc., etc., etc. We're going to learn to use our imagination in a positive way in meditation, because we're going to be imagining that cube. Okay. When evaluated in the context of Torah, knowledge of science and nature, God's creation, can also be summoned to the same end. The aim is to produce a conceptual garden of ever-evolving multi-dimensional images and insights into reality that will serve as the context and content of meditation. So what is it saying? It's very poetic. We're going to have a garden of images and insights into reality, a garden of insights into reality. Doesn't that sound nice? I could use a garden of insights into reality, and that's going to be the content of our meditation. We're going to get a lot more. This is just kind of an abstract introduction. Okay, now it's getting practical right away. The next chapter is called Methodology. In Jewish meditation, we strive to understand in depth the divine truths embodied in the Torah and in the marvels of God's creation, which in themselves bind us to Hashem, the Creator, and to His Torah. We also strive to establish points of connection between them and our personal lives. So what is it saying? So we're doing this. We want to understand the depths of divine truth, right, from the Torah. And we want to be able to marvel at God's creation. And we're going to make connections between Hashem and the Torah and our personal life. That sounds good also. Okay. So we enhance the potency of our meditation by hearing the holy words of the Torah, ideally in Hebrew, the language of creation, and simultaneously envisioning the holy letters. Okay, I want to say something about that, but I see I circled footnote 1. So I'm just going to go here to page 231. I'm just going to read a little bit of this. So footnote 1 which is for chapter 1. It says, confer Shar HaYichud VaHa'amunah, chapter 11. So this is the Tanya that we're doing now in Chitas. We still haven't reached chapter 11, but it says there, the 22 Hebrew letters are 22 different flows of the life force and powers through which all upper and lower worlds were created. Their form in writing reflects the depiction of the flow. Okay, so again, the letters themselves are like, the world is created through the Hebrew letters. That's a big deal. And the shape of the letters show their flow. So I just want to say something about this that really helped me. I once read an article by Rebbetzin Hendel from Migdal HaEmek, where she spoke about davening. It was in the Nesheh Journal, and she said the way to do it, and I really found this was life-changing. She said, underline the word as you're saying it in davening. Keep your finger under the word. It really helps. You know what word you're saying then. And I found really listening to the word, because that's what it's saying here, to like hear the word when you're saying it. If you're pointing to the word and listening to your voice saying it, that's really two really good steps to not just wander off into the far distances and times of life. So to listen to the word and point to the word. We count the holy letters as we would count precious jewels one by one. So to just love every single letter. There's another footnote there. So it says, as one would count jewels one by one. That's how the Rebbe saw Jewish people also. So it's a quote from Kedushin 30a. Therefore, the early sages were called Sofrim because they would count Sofrim, all the letters of the Torah, which is very interesting. You know, the thought of counting all the letters of the Torah, the words of the Torah, they just loved the Torah so much. This is before computers. You just had to count all those letters by hand. Okay. We also, okay. And so enamored by each letter, loving each letter, unable to let go and leave it in order to pass on to the next letter, we bind each letter to the next one as one binds one flower to another, thereby creating a beautiful bouquet. That's a quote from Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. Make a bouquet of the letters, just love each letter. When we're davening, we should just love each letter and hardly be able to leave that letter to go on to the next letter. Isn't that beautiful? Baruch Hashem. Okay, true love of the letters of the Torah come from realizing that Hashem has, so to speak, given himself to us in them. Hashem is in these letters of the Torah. That's really, he's given himself. Hashem and the Torah one. Let's see, I have footnote 4 circled also. There's a lot of footnotes. Oh, it's the footnote 4 says this phrase that from Shabbos, Gemara Shabbos 105a, that it says Anochi is an abbreviation of Ana, Nafshi, Kasvit, Yahavit. Hashem says, I give you my soul in the Torah. Hashem gives himself to us. When we're learning Torah, it's Hashem. Hashem is one with the Torah. That Hashem has given himself. He's given us himself. It's so cool. Even now, it's happening right now. We're learning Torah, and Hashem is giving himself to us in the Torah. To this end, we will anchor each concept we present in this exposition to its source in the Torah, to specific words and phrases taken from Tanakh, taken from the Bible. Okay, to know God already, page 13, to know God. Jewish meditation begins with the awareness that God has instructed us to meditate on him, and his omnipresence means he's everywhere, in order to experience him, i.e. to know him in every facet of our lives, to experience and know God in every facet of our lives. We want this, and that's why we're learning Jewish meditation. We first commit ourselves to fulfill his command. The Torah states, you shall know, this is such a famous pasuk, v'yadata hayom v'haysivosa ala v'vechet ki Hashem hu ha'elokim v'ashamayim mima'al v'al ha'aretz mitachas ein od. This is really what the Tanya is talking about now. This ein od business has been going on. Ein od, there's nothing else. There's nothing it's just only Hashem. It's all Hashem. I mean, it is little hard to grasp. Since it was this week's Tanya, everything is Hashem. When we're speaking to somebody, we're speaking to Hashem. Everything we see, it's all Hashem is creating it out of himself. It's all Hashem. Imagine thinking about speaking to people like we're speaking to God. So there's many Maimorim from all Arabeim on this pasuk. It's in the Shemon Esrei. It's the Tanya now. It's everywhere. In the Tanya, here's a quote, Kuntras Acharon 4, the classic text of Hasidic thought. The Alter Rebbe concurs with the opinion of those rabbinic authorities who count this verse as one of the 613 mitzvahs of the Torah, defining it as the mitzvah to know God by contemplating his continual creation of the universe. By contemplating God and his continual creation of the universe, it's a mitzvah to know God. Now, the rabbinic authorities that he's quoting here, the footnote tells us, is Rabbeinu Yonah in Sharei Tshuva, the gates of Tshuva. So I'm just going to say a few words about Rabbi Yonah. This might be as far as we get today. So Rabbeinu Yonah, who's being quoted here, that to know God is one of the 613 mitzvahs of the Torah, lived at the time of the Rambam, and he was very much against the Rambam to start with, and he really didn't like how the Rambam said you could just learn Mishnah Torah and find out all the mitzvahs, and he was so upset with the Rambam that he went to the Christian authorities at the time and had the books of the Rambam burnt in front of this cathedral in Paris. Okay, this 12 years later, these same Christian monks burnt all the Gemaras, all the Talmud in Paris. They cut them, their police collect them and burn them in the same place. And Rabbeinu Yonah wrote Sharei Tshuva then, because he realized he was wrong to attack the Rambam, that it was a terrible, terrible mistake. And he wrote one of the classic books ever written on Tshuva because of his Tshuva on burning the Rambam's books. It's like an amazing thing. And he also wrote this idea that knowing God is one of the 613 mitzvahs of the Torah, and the Alter Rebbe takes it from him. So this is so cool. We're going to be doing these 6 mitzvahs, and knowing God is one of them. Okay, let's see. How is our time going, Hindle? 4 more minutes. Okay, so 4 more minutes. So for the people who are watching the Galei night class, you can stay on for another few minutes and get to hear Rabbi Eli's class. For the people in our daytime class, I'll just announce again that this Wednesday night I'm making a Farbringen at Cave Rachel for my mother's yurtzeit, 9 o'clock to Hillam, 9:30 we'll find a place to Farbring. July 4th, next Monday, next week, we'll talk about it more on Sunday. We have our friend Geferet Weinstein is making a Farbringen for her mother's yurtzeit in Beitar, and I'm going to be speaking. If you're not sick and tired of me by then. All right, so Wednesday night, if anyone could come, let me know, and I'll be happy to see you. And so we're stopping here. To know God. To know God is one of the 613 mitzvahs. We're going to learn all of them. So we're going to continue next week. Amir Hashem, thank you all so much for coming. It's wonderful learning this with everybody. It really makes it so much more real. Should we take a picture of this little group here? And maybe somebody could take a picture of the night class and send it to me. Okay, this is our get well that Rav Yitzhak Fivish, Ben Brian and Malka should have a refuah shalema. If everyone could put on their smile. 1, 2, 3. Yes, it's done. Okay, thank you so much.